that head I just dropped, cause you know it don't stop. Mr. 187 on the undercover cop. Tick tock, now by the clock, just some nuts in the cop. You put your hands on
Hey everybody, welcome back to Career Channel Podcast. Glad you could join us this afternoon. I'm Bella Sinal, the co-host of Career Channel Podcast, established in 2026. Whoop whoop. Julius is out there celebrating his lovely partner. So it's just me this afternoon, and we are so excited to have Lorenzo here from Lorenzo's dog training team. Lorenzo, would you please introduce yourself and tell us when your company was established?
All right, my name's Lorenzo Miller, and we incorporated Lorenzo's Dog Training in 1987, and I believe it became Lorenzo's Dog Training Team around 1997.
Okay. Can you tell us more about what you do?
Well, I pretty much just focus on behavior modification, basic and advanced obedience, problem solving, things of that nature. But we can get into advanced training like retrieval training, scent work, utility, protection training, things of that nature.
Were you the dog whisperer as a child? How did you find yourself in this path?
Look, I was whispering before the dog whisperer, I think. But for the most part, it kind of found me. As a kid, I was inner city, youth growing up. There were a lot of stray dogs on the street in the 60s, late 60s. You would see them out there looking for food, knocking over garbage cans, and I would go out and I'd feed the dogs. And this amazing thing happened. They would follow me home, and I would come out the next day and they'd still be out there hanging out with me, or hanging out waiting on me to come out. So I thought it was amazing that the dogs would hang around and wait for me like that.
So that was your charitable service as a high school student, just helping out the stray dogs.
This was way before high school.
Oh my gosh.
This was probably pre-elementary school. But
wow.
But we weren't allowed to have a dog, so I started sneaking them in the house, and that's where the dog training started. I had to hide them from my parents, so I had to teach them things like get under the bed and be quiet and stay there. I have to go eat dinner now. And
oh my gosh. My mind is just trying to piece together all these things because your company was incorporated in 1987, became the team in 1997. This is a different era in technology. This is a different era in business. So can you talk a little bit about how you established your business in 1987? There weren't, I would imagine, as many like business supports at the time. You kind of had to talk to me about how you established your business.
Well, dog training at that time wasn't very sensationalized. So if you said, if someone would ask you, little boy, where are you going to be when you grow up? I would sometimes respond, I'm going to be a dog trainer. And they would kind of rear back and say, and what else are you going to do? As if to say, how are you going to pay your bills and support your family, So I think a seed was planted at a young age that, if I'm going to do that, I need to be able to make money doing it. And so I was always looking for that avenue. And there were former military trainers that would retire from the military and come home, and every once in a while I would be lucky enough to meet one of them, and they trained with the dogs in the military, and I would kind of hang out with them and learn whatever I could. And then there was always the trip to the library, and you read books, and there was always, I was always renting something about dogs or grooming, training, kennel management, things of that nature. And so that was, just my introduction. As far as actually getting into the business, I believe my parents found a place by the name of National Canine in Columbus, Ohio. And I was some kind of way they convinced the owner to allow me to hang out there for the summer.
Okay.
Yeah, I was invited back every summer as I was, go through junior high school and became kind of like the dog peddler of the neighborhood. So that's where...
The dog what?
The dog peddler of the neighborhood.
Peddler?
Yeah.
What's
if
that?
someone was missing a dog, they said, that little boy up the street probably has it. And most times I'd have the dog,
Wow. So you started this internship of sorts in junior high school?
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Paid my way through my primary, college days, went to the community college, took some classes, and paid my way for it through by training dogs.
Interesting, interesting. And then how has your company evolved in the 21st century? What's going on?
I found myself really busy by the early 90s.
Okay.
I was averaging, 20, 30 clients a month, and I needed help. And my clients started volunteering to help me. So I had to teach them what they needed to do in order to assist, and started sort of training trainers by default. And then these guys would hang out with me for 6 months or so. Then they would go off and start their own business, training dogs, and become my competition. And after, experiencing that a few times, I decided I wasn't going to do that anymore. I would just do it by myself, and that was the kiss of death. I found myself burnt out about 10 years later. I didn't want to hear a dog, see a dog, smell a dog. I was dogged out. I had been training since I was a little boy, and I went off and wanted to do something different. A friend called me about a network marketing opportunity. I was never ever interested in any of that before, and I told him, yeah, anything but dogs. You know what I mean? So, I went to a meeting. I had to put a suit and tie on. It was different, and they were talking about over residual income and doing the job once and getting paid over and over again for it, and acting locally but thinking globally, and they would just say things in that meeting that was, striking, ringing a bell for me. And I was interested in learning more about how to do that. And I signed up. And the next thing you know, I was recruiting people, training people, building teams, and I kept saying the whole time, I could have did this in my dog training business. Instead of employees, they were independent contractors, and I would think once again, boy, I could have did this. So I got a very fundamental education and understanding of how to take my business nationwide in that experience.
And now your company is nationwide.
And now Lorenzo's dog training team is in, 15 some odd states now.
And does that mean that there are actual establishments in those different states?
Absolutely.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. And so you're just the CEO, not just, but you are the CEO of all those entities.
I would be Lorenzo, yeah.
You'd be Lorenzo. You'd be the focal point. Oh my goodness. Wow. So how many decades is that of work?
Oh man, you tell me, what is this, 2026 now?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been
80s, 90s.
Don't forget the 70s,
zeros.
70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 20s, 30s, yeah.
So what is that? Did you
About
count?
Six, 6.
That's
decades.
impressive. That's impressive.
Absolutely.
So there are entrepreneurs listening. There are people who love dogs who are listening. So if I'm a dog lover and I'm not sure what path to take, how can I learn more about dogs or how to monetize dog work?
Well, it's funny you ask that, because whenever I recruit trainers these days, most of them come from that space. They're already in the industry. They're working at a pet store. They're volunteering at a shelter. They are a vet tech, maybe working in the vet's office, places like that. And we go in to introduce ourselves. We'll do a lunch and learn. And typically, one or two people will follow me to the parking lot when I leave and say, I want to do what you do. So that's kind of like where I find them these days. Or, they hired us to train their dog as a client and had such a great experience that they decided they'd rather train dogs and do what they're doing currently.
And then, so are these franchises? What's the setup with these companies?
Well, that's a really good question. We look like a franchise, but we're just a team of trainers that share the same vision, systems, technique, theory, philosophy, culture, things of that nature.
And are you still at a point in your career and in your business where you're still like actually training trainers at this point, or have you kind of stepped back?
That's well, I've done all of that. I've trained the trainers, I've trained the dogs, trained the trainers, stepped away from it all and went to work on the business versus in the business. And then I went back to work in the business because I got bored.
Okay.
And wanted to get back to what I enjoyed doing, which was, working with the dogs.
And for people who are looking to expand their business nationwide or into 14 more states, how did you start? What was the first step? And how did you start that process? It seems like a big process.
It was very interesting. Someone asked me, one of my clients said to me, we're going to be moving to California and we wanted to continue training when we get there. Do you know anyone, that we could, connect with in, whatever city they were moving to in California? And I thought to myself, no, I don't know anybody. And it bothered me the whole night. And I thought to myself, I should recruit a trainer from California. And I went to work on doing just that. And believe it or not, I just took a trip to Cali. I went to San Diego, got a hotel room, got a rental car, started driving around, meeting with vets and their staff, and marketing my business, letting them know I was looking for a dog trainer or someone interested in being a dog trainer. It worked. I found a few people that way. Went over to Las Vegas, did the exact same thing, and then did it again in Phoenix, Arizona. My goal was to get out of the winter, get out of the snow in the wintertime. I wanted to be able to go to the West Coast and, and stay warm. And so I was bouncing back and forth that way. And before you knew it, we were, I created a system and started duplicating that system through other trainers, and the team started to spread out a little bit.
Talk to me a little bit about, you specifically said you were working on the business at a point and not working in the business. What is that distinction?
Well, at some point I had to stop training dogs because training the trainers was more profitable. And the trainers needed me to be flexible. So if I'm working with a client for, whatever few dollars that might be, I was losing money because I needed to be in New York or Chicago or, and so I realized I couldn't, take on personal clients. And the business needed me to be, traveling and working with the trainers. After building the team, putting about 400 trainers in place, I was able to kind of step back. I had leadership in place now, and those guys were doing the traveling, and I could kind of come back and, train dogs. So it was like a blessing to be able to do that.
So currently you're training dogs?
Yeah, sort of. I take on a client or two here and there still.
The good ones, the rough ones?
It could be sometimes one that I wouldn't wish on any of the trainers, or a dog that maybe one of my trainers is struggling with, a client that they're struggling with. And sometimes it's just a client from 25, 30 years ago that won't work with anybody but me, and that whole thing.
So you've been through the full cycle of a business, from ideation to hustle to now I get to work on the business, and then you also made a choice to then go back into your craft.
Right.
That's amazing that you've been able to do that all.
Yeah, just being healthy enough, this far along in the game to be able to do it is a blessing for sure.
What do you do in your spare time?
That's a really good question. I rest.
Okay.
I'm pretty regimented. So I get up in the morning, 4 a.m., I work out. I'm going to read a little bit. And then I'm typically at the training center about 6:37. Trainers come in at 8. Office staff gets in around 9. They're all leaving around 5. I'm normally still there. And and I'm working with clients and trainers up until maybe 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the evening.
And that's
4 to 5 days a week.
And that's here in Cleveland?
That's here in Cleveland,
Okay.
if I'm in town, yes.
And have you remained this snowbird?
I always talk about getting away, but once you have kids and the kids are having, I have 5 grandchildren now,
Sure.
So, I'll get away, but, they kind of pull me back.
Of
so
course.
I can't go stay.
Of course.
Right.
And it sounds like you've done you read every day, so obviously you keep up with the times, but also it sounds like you've studied throughout your business. What are some books or what are some techniques or tools that you can share with the audience?
We have a saying on the team, leaders are readers, and when you stop reading, you should stop leading, So we're big on that, book of the month. It might be something by John Maxwell. It could be, Kiyosaki, it could be, you know, any of those business coaches. And I've read just about everything, you know, coming up.
Wow.
Yeah, I think the book of the month this month is As a Man Thinketh by James Allen.
Okay.
And it's probably one of my first books. When I graduated high school, my mother gave me that book. And it's still one of my favorite books to this day.
And let's go back to a little bit about your upbringing. So it sounds like your parents were very involved and invested in what you wanted to do. Talk about the importance of knowing your child's craft or knowing your child's passion and kind of helping ignite that.
My parents they were special for sure. They were both entrepreneurs. So when your parents are self-employed, you go to work early as a child, you know. So I grew up working in a beverage store with my father, and you know, so you just learned, you know, business. You know, I learned it at a young age, how to talk with people, how to, you know, manage, you know, help, how to hire and fire, you know, things of that nature. Just, you know, the core principles of running a business. So, you know, they didn't ask us if we wanted to do it. It was, you know, you just had to go. So I didn't enjoy it so much as a kid, but as I grew up, I realized that I was a little different than the other kids. You know what I mean? A little more mature and less fearful. You know what I mean? And there were just a lot of pros. The pros definitely outweighed the cons. You know what I mean? You know, growing up working with your family, you know, as a kid coming up. But with that being said, I've never punched a clock. You know, I never had a job, so I don't relate with that side real well, with that mindset. I've always been entrepreneurial. Even before the dog training, or during training dogs, I would look at other things and try other things, but I always came back to the dogs.
Parents, entrepreneurship, 6 decades. You read, you study your craft. So how can a parent see something in a child and help them further develop that craft? How would you recommend a parent do that with a young 16-year-old?
I can only speak from my own experience. You know, my mom was definitely afraid of dogs, so she did not embrace, you know, my dog fetish, you know, as a kid. But once they saw they couldn't stop me from, you know, they couldn't, you know, beat the attraction I had, you know, they then kind of got with it and found a school and sent me and a couple of the stray dogs I had away to that camp for the summer. I think they were trying to get rid of me and those dogs. But I would just say, I mean, you know, I didn't pick it, it picked me at that age. I thought it was kind of strange and you know, when you're graduating high school, people didn't know what they wanted to do. Like, I always knew what I wanted to do, you know, so, I would just say that, you know, as I was raising my kids, you know, I had a business. They worked in the business alongside of me growing up, but I always told them, you know, you do what you want to do, you know, find your thing. 2 of my kids went off into, you know, their own line of work, and my youngest said, I want to work with you. So she actually runs our office today.
Okay, that's beautiful. And then, you know, as a consultant myself, I've heard be careful about training younger staff because they will take your best practices and create their own system or their own company right up under you. So kind of what you had experienced before. Talk about how to prevent that, or talk about how to what system you put in place to replace that model of upskilling people and ensuring that they stay with you. That's
a really, really good question, because that was a little frustrating in the beginning to the point where I said, I'm not going to do it anymore.
Right.
But as I went out and learned more, I realized they didn't leave because they didn't appreciate me and or appreciate what they learned. They left because they knew they could make more money doing it on their own. So I needed to figure out how to pay them more so that they would want to stay. And when I put the coaching concept in place where they could build a team of trainers and get an overriding income on the work that those trainers was doing, it was like, I call it the golden handcuffs. They didn't want to leave anymore. They wanted to stay because they realized I don't have to build a 17,000 square foot facility. I don't have to do all the things Lorenzo had to do. I can just go out and put a team in place and use the systems that are already in place to, maximize my income. And there was a level of freedom associated with it. So they're able to have time and money at the same time and do something that they love doing. So it didn't make sense to leave at that point.
So you've talked a little bit about the systems that you put in place to ensure your company is successful, move into 14 other states, 15 other states. How have you figured out what systems to put in place? Is it trial and error? What's your process for implementation?
You just keep reading, you keep learning. You every year we sit down with the leadership and talk about what we can do better, and continue to learn, stay open, because as you said earlier, times are changing, technology is changing. When I started training dogs, there was no Google, there was no Facebook. Today these trainers they have clients that just literally fall in their lap, where I had to go out and do the door-to-door thing. Leaving business cards and doing presentations, and I can honestly say those clients were better clients, because they were referred by a veterinarian, they were referred by the owner of the pet store. They had an understanding of who I was before I met them, and there was a little bit of an understanding of what we charge. So they were just better clients then. But I think the volume, that a Google can bring you today, just kind of balances it out a little bit. Yeah.
Well, as we wrap up, I'd love to hear some advice for an entrepreneur that wants to scale and go national.
Be careful what you ask for.
Okay.
That's my advice, because you might get it. I always wanted to be successful, and as I would move up in rank in my career, I was always looking for what was next. A lot of my clients were professional ball players, and people in Las Vegas were just, their lifestyles were ridiculous. I'm working for people like, a Nicolas Cage and training his dogs, and Morris Day with the Time. And, so I had a chance to see, a very affluent lifestyle. And I said to myself, I want that. So that was the motivation that kept me climbing and looking for, what was next. You take advice from other business owners, you network with people that are doing what you want to do, and learn what you can, and then apply it. And as I said earlier, just stay a student of the game in a sense. I remain a student. I'm probably one of the highest paid professional dog trainers I know here in Cleveland. More than likely in the country, but I still remain a student.
I appreciate that. Good to hear for myself. How can people find you? What's your website? What's your socials?
Oh man, listen, www.lorenzosdogtrainingteam.com. You can find us there. The local number 216-475-5999, and then we have an 866 number on the website as well.
Okay. And you're accepting clients?
Always.
Okay.
We're always feeding these trainers of ours. So. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Well, thank you so much. Do you want to say anything else?
Oh, no, I'm good. I think you did a great job. I'm very impressed with the studio here, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much for joining us for Career Channel's podcast. We hope you join us again next week and hear what else we have to share. Have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Your hands way up in the air and wave them all around like you just don't care. Yeah, roll up the dank and pour the drink and watch your step. Cause doggy's on the gang. My bankroll's on swole. I'm still on hit legit, now I'm on parole. Scroll with the dog pound right behind me and rolling with my. That's where you might find me flinging that G thing. She want the G with the biggest sack. And who's that? He is I and I am him. Slim with the tilted brim. What's your name, fool?